Hi, everybody, and welcome to week 7. We're making a ton of progress. We just got through our first major holiday of the quarter. Fall quarter is always kind of fun because we have all of the holidays all the time. So hopefully everyone had a safe and enjoyable Halloween. I know for myself, we dressed up as the Peanuts gang. So I was Charlie Brown, and my son was Snoopy and as the Red Baron. So I got a old stove box from one of the appliance places and chopped it and spray painted it and made a doghouse. So, which was pretty cute. I'll post a picture for you guys later in the announcement so you can take a look at it. But it was very fun. So hopefully you guys had fun too. So we're just going to go over week 7 for you. It's hard to believe we're making as fast progress as we are, but we're kind of in the winding down point of the quarter. So I'm going to turn over to Lisa, and she's going to walk you through English 301.
Okay, and I will reiterate that we're going to need to see pictures of this, Jonathan, because that sounds pretty spectacular. What was anyone, Lucy or Violet?
My wife was Lucy. So,
Okay,
and
okay,
then my
just making
daughter
sure.
was Woodstock.
Oh, that's so awesome. Okay, wonderful. Well, let me then get to the area where I can share with you. And I'm not seeing, oh, but you know what? Probably I just need to pull this up. There we go. Forgive me. Share screen.
Technology,
And
man. I feel you.
yeah, yes. And here we go. So in the week 7 portion, now we've submitted the annotated bibliography. Last week, we had that work with organization. And now in this week, we're going to dive deeper into preparing for assignment 3, which is really sort of the culmination of assignments 1 and 2, with a lot of added analysis and intellectual work. This is sort of the powerful assignment that allows you to put everything that you've been doing into conversation with each other and to come to some firm conclusions. So you, rather than reading from the textbook this week, will read this link that talks about integrating literature. Literature, not in the sense of, Dickens and Shakespeare, but instead the literature that you're reading, the sources that are going to help support you as you're constructing assignment 3. There's a couple of links of guidance here. Let's have a quick look. Yeah, so these are some really good writing center tools from the University of Wisconsin and the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill. And these are both geared specifically toward doing the kind of work that you're doing in assignment 3. And one of the things about assignment 3 is we don't tend to do this kind of work all the time. We tend to work with sources individually, and then we maybe have an argument and put those sources to use in support of our argument in some way. But in this case, you're really placing these sources into conversation with each other in order to come to your conclusions. So it's a different muscle that we're exercising in our brain. So if it feels new to you, it's new. And maybe you've done something like this before, but if you haven't, trust me, you're in the boat that so many of us are when we approach something like this. Go back to that sample, see how that sample student progressed from assignment 1 to 2 to 3, see what she's doing there, because she does a good job with putting it together. And then finally, the work that you'll be producing from this is a discussion board that asks you to do some of this grouping and categorizing work. Remember that this isn't something that needs to be ultra specific. The idea is to start thinking in this way and um, to show that you have thought in this way, and now you're putting it into words in preparation for assignment 3, but don't feel like you need to sort of produce another assignment 3. This one is engaging with your HIM coursework, so here will be another piece of overlap. And if you have any questions about this, please feel free to give me a call or an email. And remember that you'll want to comment on 2 peer posts as well. So make sure you've got your main post and then your 2 response posts to other students in the class. And then finally, this is great. This is me asking you to check in and let me know where you are. This can be 3 paragraphs or 3 pages. This can be a couple of sentences. How's it going is basically the question. And so there's no right or wrong answer here. Feel free to say, I'm struggling, and here's where I'm struggling, and here's what I need. Try to be as specific as possible so I can help you. Do you have any questions? Let me know. Maybe there are questions about sources that you're not sure. Maybe it's questions about something, the way that the assignment is worded, or something you saw in the student sample paper. This is simply for us to communicate with each other. You will get full credit. All you have to do is communicate with me here. Let me know how you're doing. And I want you to know that I'm here for you. And especially with this larger assignment that's worth more of your grade, I want to sort of check in and make sure that it's in progress, because next week the draft will be due, and the following week the final draft will be due. So that's it for me this week, and that'll take us through the end. And I'm gonna stop sharing, and I'm back.
Perfect. That's great. Thank you very much, Lisa. I really like the fact that you've got that check-in with the students. And I know that we just had a check-in survey in HIM 301. So Lisa and I are going to dive into those results this week, and then we'll talk about it and figure out, I don't know, just figure out like a plan of attack based on your feedback. So yeah, hopefully things are good. We had 18 responses, which is amazing. Thank you all for being kind enough to give us some feedback there. And hopefully we'll make the last 4 or 5 weeks of class a good thing. And if there's any areas for improvement, we can focus on that. Yeah, so let's go into my section. I'm going to share my screen. And so for this week, we're going to look at classifications, vocabularies, terminologies, and standards. So it's going to be a little bit tech heavy. We're going to be looking at the coding systems, ICD-10-CM, PCS, which is basically your diagnosis codes, your inpatient procedure codes, and then your outpatient codes as well with the CPT ones. And then we're looking at data standards. We're looking at interoperability, which is basically making sure that Epic can talk to Cerner and that data can flow. So does gender fields mean the same thing between the two systems? Do you have different variables? So is it a MF, male, female, or is there a U, an unknown, or are you as or is your software vendor increasing the amount of gender options given how we're advancing in our understanding of what gender really kind of looks like in this country. So there's when you talk about interoperability, you have to figure out, can the systems talk to each other? Are the data fields mapped out the same? So it gets really convoluted, super complicated, and very, very expensive for these poor organizations that have a hodgepodge of systems that they're trying to make talk to each other. So I know a few of you are industry professionals, and I think that's really going to benefit the discussions this week, talking about life when you have systems or multiple systems trying to create those interfaces. Because I remember when I was working in the industry, and that was incredibly expensive and budgetarily crippling, trying to figure out where do we prioritize the next interface to be able to pull data. So I'm going to definitely rely on you professionals out there to share your experiences, because I think that's what makes the class richer. We're focusing on chapter 5. It's roughly 30 pages, so not terrible, 25, 30 pages. There's some videos for you. There is one that is disabled currently. The World Health Organization has pulled it, so I'll try to find a replacement video. So give me roughly, give me today to find a video, and then I'll get it posted there for you. And then we have a few lectures as well, going over unified medical language systems, RX norm, SNOMED. These are all the foundational, these are like your languages that these systems are based on. So when we were talking about the fields that are available for the gender field, those are all driven by these standards that are out there. And then we've got 2 discussions, so relatively easy, and then an EHR Go assignment. So the first discussion is looking at clinical terminology, vocabulary, or classification systems. And you're going to just write about 3 paragraphs. Remember, that's about 1 page, roughly. And you're wanting to, adhere to APA, because that's what we do in this program. And then you're going to respond to at least 1 student. So in English 301, Lisa's having you respond to 2 peers. And for my assignment, it's just 1. So make sure you're taking notes on what the requirements are. Don't do extra work unless you want to. Like, I'm not going to be upset if you respond to 2 students, but I know your time is valuable. So really just do 1. It's easier that way. And then let's see here. Oh, and this is kind of cool too, where you get to address one of the following. So, or addresses the following. So there's 5 little areas to help guide your paragraph exploration. So your second discussion is looking at interoperability and standards, and you're going to choose one of the following topics, either interoperability or data standardization. And then you're going to pull in what you're reading from chapter 5 to do to use this as a framework. But you have to also pull in data from AHEMA and HIMSS to flush out your stuff. And that's mainly because when we're using the textbook, we're versioned in, right? So when that textbook was published and created, that was as of, I think 2019 is when it came out. So this is 2021, almost 2022. There's been advances. So the nice thing is when you pull in research databases like AHEMA and HIMSS, you're pulling in stuff that is pretty relevant. So I throw out the dates, not to, just to try to encourage you to do it, but to make you think about, if your textbook was published in X year, then make sure your articles are probably published a little sooner than that. Otherwise, you're not really incorporating anything new. Now you have to use your own, best judgment when you're reading through chapter 5 versus the article that you're glancing through to figure out, does this complement the article? Is this just rehashing the same thing? How do we, look at some of the updates that have occurred? So if I were you, from a grading perspective, if you want an A, I would definitely try to find stuff that was more current than your textbook, or explained the topic in a different way than your textbook. That way it's making a richer post. So, and then your second posting is going to refer back to English 301, specifically chapter 8, section 8.3, feedback as an opportunity. And you're going to provide feedback to at least 1 classmate using at least 2 of the feedback categories. So it could be evaluative, interpretive, supportive, probing, or understanding. So it should be a familiar process from what you did in English 301, and we're going to replicate it here. So again, that's that overlap, or honing those skills between both. And then finally, we have an EHR Go activity called Classification and Terminology Systems Activity. It'll take you about an hour to work through, so set aside some time there. And then you're going to be looking at the chart of Mr. Zane Hamden. So, and then you're going to upload your documents into the Dropbox here. So have fun. It should be a fun week. There's going to be a lot to dive into. Where, classifications and terminologies is a pretty broad topic, but that's the basis of HIM 301, right? You're getting exposed to all the little areas or massive areas in small little chunks to kind of give you a well-seasoned foundation for what HIM looks like as a field. All righty. I think that's it for me. I'll stop sharing. Any final thoughts, Lisa? I think my internet might be a little unstable, so I'm going to go ahead and stop the video.